Hello, everybody, and thanks for joining us this week for Up in the Air. I'm Nathan Flinchbaugh, and joining us this season is Casey Laheka.
Thanks, Nathan. Glad to be part of the show.
It's great to have you, Casey. On today's show, we'll be talking to students of the Weather Risk Management Club. We also have a feature on agriculture in the United States and much more.
As always, let's start with Update in the Air.
It's late September, which means the leaf peeping season for thousands is now underway in the northeastern corner of the United States. According to the Foliage Network, the recent cool weather has made its biggest impact on fall color yet this season during the last week. After a slow start, moderate color is now showing in portions of western Maine, northern New Hampshire, central Vermont, and the higher elevations of the Adirondacks in New York State. Here in Pennsylvania, much of the central and northern parts of the state have now transitioned into low color change criteria, while lower elevations and coastal sections in the Northeast remain in the little to no change category as of this Monday. In a normal autumn, State College typically has its peak in the middle of October, but this year could be delayed several days, thanks in large part to warmer than average September temperatures.
Researchers have come to a conclusion on when and where the first clear signs of global warming appeared. By examining average and extreme temperatures, Dr. Andrew King was able to determine the beginning of global warming. The research shows clear signs of global warming in the tropics by the 1960s, but in parts of Australia, Southeast Asia, and Africa, it was visible as nearly as the 1940s. Near the tropics, they experience a much narrower range of temperatures, allowing the shifts in temperature to be much more recognizable. Average temperature shifts gave the first sign of global warming, accompanied by changes in extreme temperature trends. Near the poles, climate change was not as noticeable until 1980 to 2000, in which clear trends of increasing temperatures were recorded. One exception to this warming trend is in the eastern and central United States, where obvious warming signals have yet to manifest.
Stargazers were treated to a rare astronomical phenomenon this past week when a total lunar eclipse coincided with the so-called supermoon. Depending on overhead cloud conditions, the event was visible throughout much of North and South America, Europe, Africa, and Western Asia Sunday night and early Monday morning. When a full moon makes its closest approach to the Earth, it appears slightly larger and brighter and also typically contains an uncommon reddish hue. This also coincides with the Earth, Sun, and Moon all lined up perfectly to obscure the view of the Moon from Earth's surface. Many astronomers and dark sky enthusiasts worldwide gathered to snap pictures of the rare event. To put in perspective, the last time this twin appearance took place was in 1982, and scientists forecast the next one will not take place again until 2033.
According to a new NASA study, the world's oceans have seen significant declines in certain types of microscopic plant life at the base of the marine food chain. Diatoms, the largest type of phytoplankton algae, have declined more than 1% per year from 1998 to 2012 globally. This reduction in population may reduce the amount of carbon dioxide drawn out of the atmosphere and transferred to the deep ocean for long-time storage. Using computer models and satellite data, NASA's ocean biogeochemical model is able to recreate the conditions in the ocean, from its currents to the amount of sunlight and nutrients available in different ocean basins. By combining both computer models and the satellite data, the story becomes more holistic.
The nation of Italy recorded some impressive severe weather over the weekend, as baseball-sized hail was reported in the country on Saturday. Numerous people and animals were injured in the coastal town of Pizzoli, just outside the popular destination city of Naples. According to Jonathan Erdman, senior meteorologist for Weather.com, the storm was brought on by a vigorous southward plunge in the jet stream that carved into Western Europe, sending a potent upper disturbance into the Italian peninsula on Saturday. The instability as a result produced a cluster of severe thunderstorms over the Mediterranean Sea, which then barreled into Italy. Social media posts tell a similar story in parts of northern Italy as well. The magnitude of this storm and the hail it contained was enough to cause smashed windshields and severe structural damage in some of the harder-hit communities.
Temperatures during the past few months have laid the foundation for a vibrant display of fall colors in the east, but the determining factor will be the temperatures coming in the next few weeks. From late September to mid-October, a cold snap paired with dry conditions helps to bring out the vibrant reds, yellows, and oranges. Warm, wet, and windy weather could dampen the vibrant display of fall colors. There are three main factors that influence the intensity of fall foliage during the season: photoperiod, cool air, and water stress. Forecasters are predicting that the autumn chill might be a little delayed this year, pushing back the emergence of bright colors. Assuming that we get a normal cool down in the mid-October, fall colors should be very good.
Welcome back to Up in the Air.
We'd now like to welcome members of the Weather Risk Management Club to the show.
Thanks for joining us, Jeff and Johnny. Can you tell us a little bit about how weather affects football in ways we might not normally think?
With football season in full swing, you probably have noticed many people actively involved in betting or fantasy football leagues. And while it may go unnoticed to some, even the weather can play a role on the outcome of your hometown team or the statistics of your favorite player.
That's right, Jeff. Oftentimes, the most important factor in a game is the wind. Windy weather can affect multiple aspects of the game, mainly kicking and passing. When focusing specifically on passing, the yardage from each play can be tied to the wind speed during the game. The figure shown on screen highlights the yards per passing attempt as a function of wind speed. As seen in the graph, as wind speed increases, the yards per passing attempts decreases significantly. Additionally, teams will run the ball more and pass less per game when it is windy. Wind speed also affects the amount of points scored per game. The bar chart shown shows that, for the most part, as wind speed increases, the average amount of points per game decreases.
Other than wind speed, what other meteorological factors play a role?
That's a great question, Casey. Just like wind speed, temperature is a huge factor in the game of football. In fact, a study conducted by ESPN concluded that a player's reaction times can be reduced up to 45% when playing in extreme cold conditions. Consequently, a quarterback's completion percentage in outdoor stadiums follows a steady downward trend from September through January, which can be attributed to the average temperature decreasing in the wintertime.
Other variables, such as humidity, air pressure, and precipitation, also contribute to the game and statistics. Players are prone to heat exhaustion when humidity is unusually high, such as in one 1967 game in Miami, Florida, where numerous players had to leave the game suffering from related symptoms. Similar cases can occur with respiratory issues at higher altitudes and lower pressures, as in cities like Denver, Colorado.
Sounds like weather can really affect the players, but are there any ties to weather and the footballs themselves?
There sure are. In fact, the size, pressure, and bounciness of the football can change due to different temperatures. The same study by ESPN mentioned before determined that the diameter of a football decreases up to 1/10 of an inch in temperatures around 10 degrees Fahrenheit. Compared to a football at room temperature, a football at 10 degrees Fahrenheit could be up to 2 pounds per square inch less. Both of these may sound like a minuscule difference, but as we all know, a little can go a long way.
A variable called the coefficient of restitution, or essentially the bounciness of a football, is severely affected by the weather as well. The colder the weather, the lower the coefficient, and therefore, the less bouncy the ball is. On average, punts in colder temperatures are 3 yards shorter than those in warmer temperatures, and the field goal percentage drops by 1.7%.
A game of football can come down to the last few seconds, the last few yards, or even a single gust of wind. Whether they may be big or small, the changes of a game induced by weather conditions ultimately could determine the outcome of a game.
So when it comes to time to decide who you're starting or how much money you will be placing on a bet, be sure not to only consider the obvious statistics, but to check the weather forecast as well.
Well, thanks for joining us, guys. We look forward to talking to more club members next week. Welcome back to the show.
This week's feature comes from the Weather Communications class here at Penn State.
That's right. Brett Eilertson talks about how the weather affects agriculture.
Agriculture in the United States is a powerhouse industry, bringing in approximately $330 billion annually to the GDP. Of that value, livestock and the meat and poultry industry brings in about half of that. Over the years, the changing climate and temperature swings have wreaked havoc on crops, causing yields to be significantly lower as a result. In the meat industry, the changing temperatures cause them to become stressed. An animal's ability to adjust its metabolic rate to cope with temperature extremes can lead to reduced productivity and, in extreme cases, death. Prolonged exposure to extreme temperatures will also further increase production costs and productivity losses associated with all animal products such as meat, eggs, and milk. In addition to rising temperatures, droughts can have catastrophic effects on the industry as well. The recent California drought cost an estimated $2 billion in losses in crops. According to a recent report by the USDA, within the past year, over 25% of the rice crop in California was lost because of a lack of water, leading to an estimated $5 billion that were taken away from the industry alone just from rice. One final piece to the puzzle that can cause problems in the agricultural industry are weeds and insects. Increasing carbon dioxide boosts weed growth, adding to the potential for increased competition between crops and weeds. Several weed species benefit more than crops for high temperatures and carbon dioxide levels. Invasive species like kudzu and privet will reduce the yields and allow for more pesticide use, like Roundup, which can pollute the environment. There is no immediate solution to solving the effect of climate on the agricultural industry, but something must be done to combat this, or else the United States will face a serious issue within the next decade. For Up in the Air, I'm Brett Eilertson.
Thanks for tuning back in.
There's definitely been a change in the weather patterns the last couple days. A lot of rain in our area.
That's right. Amanda Reynolds is standing by at the Climate Wall for our climate outlook. Amanda?
Thanks, Nathan and Casey. These last couple days have been very wet. We topped over the average amount of precipitation for September, went up and over 3 inches for the month, and we're going to look forward to see if that trend will continue throughout October in just a minute. But we begin by looking at this, a little bit of climatology and what to expect for the month of October. October 1st, the average high is around 69 degrees, the average low around 57. At this point, we're dropping about a degree every couple days or a couple degrees per week off the average high and the low. The average precipitation for the month of October is around 3 inches, and look at this number, no longer 0. For the month of October is usually when we start getting some snow and start dropping below freezing, especially at night. So about 0.4 inches of snow or ice is what typically occurs during the month of October. Looking now at our drought monitor, these last couple days with that rain, some of these may have changed, but as of the beginning of this week, parts of the state and Commonwealth were under abnormally dry conditions, especially back towards the west and a small patch up north of Scranton. But looking across the U.S., you can see, again, this is early on in the week before many of these areas received quite a bit of rain, but very dry across the east, but also very, very dry back towards the west. Parts of California have been in an extreme drought for over a year now, so that unfortunately rainfall has not increased throughout those areas, and they're still in that extreme drought. But looking at the temperature outlook for the U.S., above normal looks to be the case for the next 8 to 14 days, especially down towards Florida, looking to be well above normal. But even here in State College, we can expect to be a few degrees warmer than we might normally see, and that is similar back towards the west. Again, parts of California continue to be above normal, a pattern they've seen quite a bit over the last year. Something we haven't seen a lot of, the precipitation outlook looks to be above normal for much of the U.S., especially even here towards State College, looks to be above normal. A small patch of below normal precipitation down towards Florida, but even back towards the west looks to be a little bit above average. Unfortunately, not for areas that have been heavily ridden by that drought in parts of central and southern California. That's all I have for today with your climate outlook. Back to you, Casey and Nathan.
Thanks, Amanda.
Well, that does it for this week's episode.
Thanks so much for joining us this week.
Be sure to join us next week for more work done by the students here in the Department of Meteorology. I'm Nathan Flinchbaugh.
And I'm Casey Laheka. See you next time up in the air.